Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Magician with a Microphone podcast. My name is Chris Lengyel with Chris Lengyel Magic, and this episode is actually episode 21 because there was another episode 21 up where I basically sounded like a bitch and vented about all of my problems for an hour, and I actually listened to it. And I was like, you know what? I can't fucking put all of this shit up on YouTube. I can't put it all out in the public. It makes me look like shit. It makes me look like a horrible person. And I'm just not going to do that, So, what I think I want to do is I want to talk about the end of that podcast. All the wrestling stuff that I had included. And go over a couple of other things that, I was planning on doing. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be happening. I was supposed to have a friend of mine, Rich DiCarlo, on the podcast today, and we were going to record 2 podcasts. Unfortunately, I don't think he's able to do it. I texted him, and I was like, hey, we still want to do this, and I didn't hear anything. So I'm here at the gallery, and if he shows up, maybe I might cut that, this one short, or maybe he'll just come in and get interviewed, at the very, very end of the podcast. So, you never know. You never know. I'm sitting here at the gallery right now watching 2 people. One guy with a broken leg. The other guy, I don't even know what his deal is, but it looks like they're moving in the business next door, which kind of sucks because I really wanted that spot because I was planning on opening up a theater. Yeah, that ain't happening. Who knows? Maybe one day. I was thinking about that when I was doing the show at the Bijou. I opened up a show for my friends Pete and Chris. They were doing their Santa Claus and Elf Magic show, which they almost sold out the theater, and I'm fucking bitter about that because I can't draw a crowd if it was free. And I believe I talked about that at one point during this podcast before. I don't draw large audiences. My marketing sucks, and the people that I give tickets to can't be bothered to show up. If they have to spend any sort of money to get out there, they won't come. So my friends Pete and Chris did a Santa Claus and Elf Magic show. Didn't even advertise the fucking thing, and almost sold out. So it's now my mission to sell out a theater before they do. Ha 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 ha. I'll do it eventually. It's just a matter of time. But I was thinking about it when I was at the Bijou. We're setting everything up on the stage, and I'm talking to Gary and everything, and I've brought this up to him in the past, but I really, really thought about it. One day I might actually want to take over the Bijou. One day I might actually want to, run a theater, own a theater. And I understand it's a lot of work, it's a lot of promotion, it's a lot of money that goes into it, a lot of responsibility, a lot of bills, and, I feel like it's something I'd be willing to take on. If the opportunity was ever given to me, and I've told Gary in the past, I was like, look, you've done enough for me, you let me come into the theater anytime I want to rehearse something for free, you don't charge me, you turn the lights and sound on, you go up to your office, you let me have the theater to myself for hours. There have literally been times when I've told Gary, hey, I'm coming to the theater, he would open the doors, turn on the lights, I'd go on the fucking couch in the green room, and I'd fall asleep. I promise you. It's fucking weird. He trusts me for some reason, and no other theater's gonna do that. But, I told Gary, I was like, look, you've done so much for me, you've helped me out so much, you don't charge me rent with the theater when I want to do a show, you let me come in and try anything I want, film anything I want, anything that I want to do at the theater, I get to do. So I tell him all the time, I'm like, look, if you ever need any help with anything, give me a call. You got my number. Text me. Message me on Facebook. You got me on Facebook. I won't even charge them. Mainly because I just want to help. I love the theater. I love the Bijou. It's my favorite place to work, man. It's one of those things where it's like, you ever just go to a place and you feel at home? Got like that certain connection. There's certain places that I feel like I get that feeling. And the Bijou is one of them. It just holds a very, very special place in my heart. And it's something like I feel so comfortable when I'm there. I feel like I could do what I please and not have the feeling that I'm getting in anyone's way. I think that's the best way that I can put it. So, maybe one day if the opportunity ever comes up where the Bijou, maybe Gary's retiring, or maybe, he's falling on hard times, if I ever have the money, maybe I could, take over. That would be something. That'd be pretty cool. But until then, I'm the performer. I will gladly perform there. I even told him, I was like, look, hey, I want to do a resident show. I want to do one show a month. And if I don't sell out, I'll donate all of the ticket sales to the theater, because usually we do a ticket split. So I think that'd be pretty fun. I'm not even going to lie. I think that'd be really interesting if we were to do something like that, because one, it would be helping out the theater. And two, it would help me with my marketing skills. Like, imagine you're doing a show every month and you can't take a paycheck until you sell out, which means I would be forced to think outside of the box with my marketing, with my advertising. I'd have to go to different places, try new things. But unfortunately, right now with the pandemic and with the fact that people are, still scared because the news tells them to be, we can't really, have a show every month. Can't really take the risk knowing that, the reward wouldn't be there every time. So, never say never, I guess. Maybe one day I'll have that responsibility. But yeah, I love the Bijou. It's one of my favorite places, and maybe something will happen when I'm not expecting it. But certain things aren't meant to happen. Like for example, going back to what I said about this theater next door. I wanted to open up like a small cabaret thing, very, very tiny, maybe holding 10, 15 seats, and then have a magic shop in the front of it. I thought that'd be a really cool idea. And I brought it up with the town, too. I was like, hey, what if? What if we had this? What if something like this came in? They didn't really say no, but unfortunately my bank account did. My lack of money said, fuck you, you're not doing this. So, oh well. Eventually, opportunities will show up, and I'll be able to do something like that one day. Until then, you never know. Got a lot of marketing done, I could say that. So I've been doing this thing called Every Door Direct Mail, which is, if anybody has ever gotten like a menu from a pizza place, and like on the back it says, to current resident, and they just sell them, like they sell them to the post office basically, and they, or not really sell them to the post office. They pay the post office to get them made, and then they distribute them to targeted areas. And it costs a fuck ton of money, as I found out. So I took it upon myself to get these postcards made. I have been, for the last couple of days, filling out addresses on these cards. Now, mind you, I didn't get 100 made. I didn't get 500 made. I got a couple thousand. My dining room table right now looks like a fucking office. Like, it looks like Santa's workshop with all of these letters. So what I have to do is I have to figure out, target the areas that I want to send these things out to. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm kind of choosing at random where they're going. So I have an idea of the areas that I want to send these cards to, because there's 3 different ones. There's ones for golf courses, there's ones for businesses, and then there's ones for residential, like houses and stuff like that. So for the businesses, I'm going and, sending them to industrial parks, factories, and insurance areas, commerce parks, the buildings that have multiple businesses inside of them, because let's face it, if you work for a corporation, you need to somehow reward your employees every once in a while. And I know that businesses have Christmas parties, corporate events, luncheons, they have parties for, the families and stuff, employee picnics. I know this because I've done performances at them. So it's a matter of when they're going to do them, because let's face it, and I don't want to sound like Mr. Political here, and I'm not trying to sound like Mr. Political here, but this COVID shit is going to stop when the media stops telling us to be afraid of it. I listen, my grandfather keeps Fox News on 24/7. Now, keep in mind, I'm more of a right-leaning person. I'm a Republican, okay? With that, and again, I'm not trying to get political, I don't give a fuck how you vote. I don't give a fuck who you voted for or what your political views are. I just happen to have mine, At the same time, I know what it's like to, to try to convince people of doing something or trying something. The best way to convince somebody, or the best way to get the word out on something, is to repeatedly put it in somebody's head over and over and over and over again until it becomes weird to not hear about it, which is what the news is doing with this COVID shit, which is why everybody's so afraid, which is why, I get it, and, the disease is real. Trust me. I've lost friends from it. I know people who are going through it right now. Personally, I cannot get it. I don't know why. I tried to get it, fuck, what do I have to do? I don't wear a mask in public. I go to public areas that don't require masks. Granted, I wash my hands 50 times a day because I'm a germaphobe, and I bite my nails profusely, and I've heard that actually could build your immune system because of all the bacteria. I don't know if that's true. But, I'm the most, according to the news, I'm a dangerous person. I'm unvaccinated because I don't believe the government, and it's not the vaccination that I have a problem with. It's the fact that everything in life should be chosen by the person who is making the decision for themselves, all right? I'm not going to get into any of this. All I'm saying is once you tell me that I have to do something, I'm going to not do it. It's just the rebel in me, you know what I mean? So, getting back to what I was saying, I understand that, with COVID and everything, people are afraid to have events, but this is all going to go away when it goes away. And when I say goes away, I mean when they stop talking about it and, instead of turning everybody against each other and making everybody hate each other, which is what the news has been doing for the last fucking 2 years, actually more than that, but, herd immunity is also mentality. Who the fuck? I don't give a fuck. My girlfriend's vaccinated. I don't fucking care. All of my family are vaccinated, yet they all have COVID right now. I'm not vaccinated. I can't get COVID. I just don't understand. I'm so unattractive, and I'm so, I'm so impossible to want that not even a deadly disease wants me. I'm that undesirable that a disease that they literally said everybody is going to get it hasn't gotten me. Shit. I don't fucking know. But that, I bring this up because that's the reason why people are still afraid to have events, all right? But for when they decide to have events, now they're going to have all my information, businesses. And then, the third postcards are all for residential. So the way that I'm choosing that is, one, I'm targeting wealthier areas because I'm a money fiend and I'm greedy and I'm a fucking asshole. I'll drive through a neighborhood. I'm sorry, I won't drive, but I'll be in the car with somebody who's driving through a nice neighborhood. I'll remember the street name. I'll be like, all right, cool, I'm going to send them postcards. Maybe they're having events. I target places that I know have a lot of kids, swing sets in the backyards, pools. Maybe they've got a soccer net or something in the backyard. So, I keep that in mind. For some reason, I've got a very photographic memory when it comes to certain things, and my marketing skills is one of them, I know where I've sent things, and I know where I still need to send things. So I target, nicer neighborhoods, but I also target shitty neighborhoods because I can't leave people out like that, Everybody deserves to be entertained. But I'm like choosing the area in which I want to send the postcards to, and then I kind of like pick random neighborhoods. So that's that's been my method. Like for example, I targeted Fairfield, which is a relatively wealthy area here in Connecticut. I would say the average income is about $90,000 to $100,000 a year for certain parts of the area. So I targeted that, but it was kind of like throwing darts at a phone book, which is I'm dating myself with that term, because phone books don't exist anymore. At least, well, they do, but nobody uses them. Kids, for those of you who don't know what the term throwing darts at a phone book is, you would open up a phone book, throw a dart at it, and whoever it landed on, you would cold call. Because there would be names and phone numbers in a phone book. Like, believe it or not, everybody's phone number at one point was listed in a book, and nobody's phone number was private because they were all houses. I gotta comment really quickly on something. The guys that are moving in next to me are moving in office supplies to the spot that I want to turn into the theater. One of the guys has a broken foot. He's hopping around the sidewalk trying to take shit out, and he looks like Chris Benoit. It's fucking hysterical. Anyway, I just wanted to make that observation. It's very strange watching him work right now. Anyway, so I'm targeting neighborhoods. I'm sending postcards out to these neighborhoods, and hopefully somebody would bite. And I've spent enough money on them to the point where, like, I'm doing the math. If I get one gig out of any of these postcards, any of these thousands of postcards that I've bought, I will make my money back for everything I've spent, for the postcards themselves, for postage, for mailing, all that stuff. I will make all of my money back with one answer. So I feel like it's worth it for now. Spend the money now while I've got it, make the money back in the spring and summertime, pack it all away, and I've got a goal financially for the end of the year that I'd like to hit. So I've been doing that. I also started up my website again. My website is up and running, www.chrislengelmagic.com. You can go and check me out. My videos are up there. My pictures are up there. You could book a show from there. I would like to get my SEO taken care of, and I think I'm going to go to my friends over at Develomark, who have not told me to promote them because I don't think Ruan has any idea that my podcast even exists. But if you're ever in need of internet SEO help, marketing help, getting your website out there, maybe even redesign, go to Develomark. They're some of the best around. They've worked with people all over the country, I think even all over the world. And Ruan is a very good friend of mine. He's responsible, he's energetic, he's bright, he's very smart. And he's very outgoing and knows what he's talking about. And I know a couple of people who work for him who I can honestly say the same thing about. You won't find anybody else that will do better. So go check him out. Develomark, Develomark. They are out of, I believe, Middlefield or Southington, Connecticut. No, maybe Middletown. Somewhere off the highway. Anyway, Develomark. Go check him out. So I think I'm actually going to have him do all of my my SEO so that way I can get back onto the front page of Google and everything like that. Because let me tell you something. I am so fucking determined this year. It's unbelievable. I have got this spark in my heart and in my brain, and I have a fire under my ass. Because one of the things that I told myself that I would do this year is to try to work on my self-happiness, even though it is very hard to do right now and I feel like my back is against the wall. I feel like the busier I am and the more distracted I am and the more money I'm making and the more connections I'm making and the more that I get to go out and do things, the better I will be. I mean, granted, I did turn down America's Got Talent. I was accepted, and I turned it down because I'm not going to be able to do the travel or any of that. But I am going on tour. I'm going on tour starting either September or October, depending on what theaters get back to me. I will have dates coming up very soon. I want this thing booked and ready to go by April. So there's that. So I'm just really excited. I really hope that these postcards help me out. I hope that this marketing that I'm doing helps me out. I hope that the fact that I reinstated my Gig Masters helps me out as well, because that's some money that I had to spend. You know, Gig Masters, Gig Salad, Bark, all of these booking websites where it's, you know, just leads come in and I take them and I try to book them. Are they all guaranteed? No. If I book one show, will I make my money back? Yep. Probably plus some. So that's the way I look at it. You got to spend money to make money. And right now, I got to spend money because I know in the summertime, in the springtime, in the fall, I'm going to be making a lot of it. So, oh, man. I'm kind of upset that Rich couldn't come in today. Rich is the owner of the Valley Arts Council and the Main Street Gallery, and I was hoping that he was going to come in and talk about art and talk about how he got started. And then there was a special podcast that him and I were going to do, and I don't know if I'm trying to talk him into talking about it because it's not about art, but when he would, I don't even want to tell you what it is because I want it to be a surprise, but it is a very popular subject among certain types of people. And I feel like if he were to ever write a book about his experience with a certain thing, he would probably make a lot of money. Movies have been made about it. Books have been written about it. And all of it's happened, and he was not a part of it, but a witness to it. So, and it's not 9/11. But, I kind of wish that he was able to talk about this, because I was getting really excited during the week. But, you know what? If he's busy, he's busy. Nothing I can do. Rich is a very, very wise person. I think that's the best way that I can put it. He's a very wise, outside of the box thinker who really he's the king of turning shit into salad. Turning nothing into something. Turning grass into gold. I'm making shit up as I go because I really can't think of the terminology for it, but he takes things that either have no future and gives them a future, or he will take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad. That's the way I wanted to put it. Rich runs all of the events in town. They all end up being very awesome events. They start out like shit, planning process at least. No fault to his, because, people in town always got to make it difficult for him, but he makes them work and it makes them successful. He's got the mentality of, this is what we're going to do, this is how we got to make it happen, now we're just going to make it fucking happen. And he does. And, when he gets talking about things that he's passionate about, and when he gets talking about things that he's very knowledgeable about, I mean, it's like listening to a poet, He's just so educated with what he does and with what he knows, and he's got so much experience. It's like listening to him, it's like a book, And I could listen to him all day, which is kind of why I was hoping he'd come on. So, oh well, maybe next week. It's okay. So, we're going to talk a little bit about wrestling, because I have to talk a little bit about wrestling. I'm going to get into what I was talking about on the podcast that I deleted. First off, AEW has been on fucking fire lately. And I called it I called it. You cannot tell me that I was wrong. I said when Ring of Honor was threatening to go out of business, when there was that rumor of, Final Battle being its last show, which it turns out it was, I was saying that there were certain guys that I feel like AEW was going to pick up and certain guys that I feel like Impact is going to pick up. And I said that Impact was going to get the women. Mainly, I thought they were going to get Maria because she'd already worked there. And it turns out they did, along with Mike Bennett, along with Vinny Marciagla, or whatever, however the fuck say his last name. Matt Taven, PCO. You got all those guys going to Impact. But I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, I said if anyone were to sign with AEW, it's going to be a single guy, and it's going to be a tag team. I said the single guy would be Jay Lethal, and the tag team was going to be the Briscoe brothers. And am I not wrong? Am I wrong? That's actually a better question. Am I wrong? Jay Lethal is now a member of AEW. His first wrestling match at AEW was against Sammy Guevara. Granted, he lost the match, but it's okay. He's a fucking beast. And that was a great match, even though I feel like not only should Jay Lethal have won, but there was a certain spot that didn't make any sense as far as believability. And that was the Swanton bomb off of the top rope through the table. That should have been the end of the match right there, because let's face it, any other normal person, that would have knocked the wind out of you and probably broke your back. But Sammy Guevara is not normal, so, he's just a freak of fucking nature, and his athleticism is just unreal. And I used to not like him. I thought he was trash at first, but he's fucking great. And then, granted, they haven't officially signed with AEW, but you got FTR invading Ring of Honor and challenging the Briscoes for the ROH tag team titles. If that does not spell Double or Nothing or All Out for, a possible Briscoe debut, I don't fucking know what will. But they're going to be an Impact, or not Impact. They're going to be an All Elite Wrestling. They're gonna be All Elite. I can guarantee you that. It's just a matter of time, and it's just a matter of booking. Right now, one of my favorite guys in AEW, Hook. What the fuck? This is Taz's son. First off, I listened to Taz on commentary, and one, I think Hook is going to be a babyface now that this whole thing with QT Marshall is going on. I feel like Hook is going to be a babyface. He's going to be one of those, like, you're going to call me crazy when I say this. He doesn't remind me of Taz as much as he reminds me of Dean Malenco. He reminds me of Dean Malenco. He goes in, barely acknowledges the crowd, has a plethora of technical moves. And now, mind you, I love technical wrestling. I fucking love it. I think it is some of the most entertaining wrestling out there. Because one, you need cardio like a motherfucker in order to do it. And two, you can chain wrestle for a half hour nonstop and everything could be fucking different and it would still be exciting. Okay? I love that stuff. Hook? Oh, and another thing, I also love submission wrestling. I am absolutely a stickler for submission. My favorite wrestlers of all time have all had submission moves in their arsenal with the exception of Randy Orton. Jericho's got the Walls of Jericho. CM Punk's got the Anaconda Vice. I always had a fucking liking for Jake Hager, who is an MMA technical wrestler. I always liked Shawn Michaels, technical wrestler. Chris Benoit, technical wrestler. I was never really a fan of Bret Hart, but I respect him. Great technical wrestler. The only real high flyers that I ever really liked were Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy. But even then, Jeff Hardy could get pretty technical, you know? But I think technical wrestling is fucking great, and Hook has it down. Hook is absolutely gold. Right now, if they build up Hook to be an undefeated fucking... He's not even a monster. Just, he's a fighter. This guy is the most believable fucking wrestler in the business today. His punches are accurate. They look like actual punches. He, his grappling is surreal. It's like he actually has pinpoint accuracy with his submissions. He knows what's a target. He knows how to apply all these things. His shit looks like it hurts. And I know he's Taz's son. Taz is the suplex genius. Taz is a submission machine. The only one that I could compare him to, aside from Taz, which is a given because Taz trained him, is Dean Malenco. This guy is a modern Dean Malenco. And he is going to, as long, and I hope to God, Tony Khan, you are a great booker, and you know what you're fucking doing, and you have Dean Malenco working for you right now. If they just keep this up, don't have Hook cut promos, please. Because God forbid he sucks on the mic. It's better off that he doesn't talk, all right? This whole thing with QT Marshall is fucking great. To me, it's signs of a babyface turn. And the fact that this guy is so over, the fact that this guy, first off, people knew who he was because of the whole, the Team Taz thing. And Hook was always in the background. He was never doing anything. He would just stand there. People were like, who the fuck is this guy? Oh, this is Taz's son. Okay, is he going to do anything? Is he ever going to do anything? And then he comes out, and that first fucking match, where he just goes out and decimates the guy. And by the way, can I just also add, there's this one little detail that I really appreciate him doing. He locks in that red rum, which is just the Taz mission, just a different name. First off, he hits the cross faces, which I think is great. It's a great setup. And then he locks his legs around the waist, which, even better, hits some more cross faces, which that's the fucking end. The second his legs go around the guy's waist, the match is over. But then he locks it in. The guy taps out, his music starts playing. He doesn't let go of his hold until the beat drops. I fucking love that. And I'm marking the fuck out right now because let me tell you something. Hook, if Hook and Kenny Omega were to go at each other, or as much as I fucking hate him, Hook and Bryan Danielson in a fucking hour-long fucking just let them go at it. Not even an hour long. If there was no time limit, I can guarantee that Hook and Bryan Danielson, or Hook and maybe Hangman, because I'll be honest with you, I am not sold on Hangman. All right, Hook and Kyle O'Reilly. Hook and Adam Cole, baby, because that's his last name, let's face it. Fuck, dude. There are so many people that he can go against, and I guarantee you they would last an hour and a half. Hook and Punk would be great. But at the same time, I also don't want him losing it anytime soon. If they keep this guy's momentum going the way that they're doing this guy is going to be a fucking megastar. And he's over with the crowd. He's never said a word on the microphone. He walks in, does his job, and walks out. It's like he leaves the ring like nothing happened. The fucking way that he manhandled fucking, who was it that he faced 2 weeks ago? That bigger dude. And the bigger dude ended up playing the heel. Like, what the fuck? He's just so fucking, he doesn't even sweat. And the fact that, like the lights go out, his music starts playing, and then the fucking crowd goes wild for this kid. You've got yourself a modern... All right, if you were to combine Chris Benoit, Dean Malenco, this guy is basically the Radicals in one fucking person, with the exception of Buff Bagwell. And maybe the exception of Eddie Guerrero, because I don't think this kid's going to be a high flyer. I haven't even seen him go up to the top rope yet. I don't think he's got a high-flying move in his arsenal. He's a ground and pound guy. But dude, that's all I'm going to say. Hook is going to be a fucking megastar. I would not be surprised if he's a champion in a month. I would not be surprised. And if he's not, so fucking be it. That means that he won't be able to lose. I don't want this kid to lose. I think he's fucking great. And honestly, I think they need to turn Taz babyface while he's on commentary with his son. Because you could tell in his voice that he's proud of his son, and it's fucking really cool to hear. You know? And then that brings out another thing. You don't realize how educated Taz is when it comes to wrestling moves. Taz knows every fucking name in the book of these moves. I didn't even realize that half of these fucking locks have names. Shit. All right, let's see. What else has happened? The TBS Championship for the women, Jade Cargill. That match against Ruby Soho was fucking great. It was technical. It was brutal. It was just... I knew Jade was going to win. Ruby is kind of falling behind a little bit. If you ask me, I feel like, she's playing the role that she didn't want to be a part of in WWE. And you know what? Let's face it. Not everybody who gets called into AEW is going to be in a top spot. It's really hard to have 40 people on the top. But at the same time, AEW right now was doing what WWE had, or WWF was doing during the Attitude Era. Think about it. There was no top guy in WWF during 1996 to 99. During the peak of the Attitude Era, there were 3 top guys. There was Stone Cold, there was The Rock, there was The Undertaker. You had Triple H was the main heel, so that way everybody can have a storyline. You had Kane, who was a major heel. You had Mankind, who was a heel, and then he would be a babyface and be a heel again. He was, he was a tweener, depending on what character Mick Foley was playing. You had Kurt Angle, The Big Show, and then you had Vince. All of these guys at any point in time could intermingle with each other, and you would have a fresh... and then Shawn Michaels. What the fuck am I thinking? Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. So you had a whole bunch of top guys who they could easily switch out and make a top champion, and they would still be able to draw money. And then all the other guys could kind of be in the background a little bit, but still have relevant storylines to where, they were still main eventers and people would still pay to see them, So figure in the Attitude Era, you had about 8 guys, maybe 8 or 9 guys who were at the very top that they could, switch around. And they didn't have to worry about them getting stale, because if they got stale, you just fucking switch them around. Stone Cold was in a feud with everybody. He was in a feud with The Rock, with Mick Foley, with Triple H, with Undertaker, with Kane, with Vince, with Shawn. And everybody was relevant, And vice versa. It was like Shawn was except for Rock. Shawn and Rock never went one-on-one. I think it's a crime. But maybe it was for the better. Who knows? But, you had Shawn versus Triple H versus Undertaker versus, Mankind. You had him versus Vince at one point, versus Bret Hart versus Stone Cold. Fucking, Undertaker had a big rivalry with Stone Cold, with Triple H, with Rock, So it's like everybody was able to be on top, and it was still relevant, and it was still, it was fresh. Nothing got stale. You didn't have the same fucking match every week for 3 months like WWE does now. Your tag team division was on top, and that was another thing. If the Attitude Era, you had the Dudleys, you had, the Hardys, you had Edge and Christian, you had the Brood when they were together. You had fucking, right to censor. Let's Brothers of Destruction when they'd get together. But then they would tag guys together like Triple H and Stone Cold, Triple H and The Rock and fucking, Shawn. You had DX. You had so many, the Hart Foundation. So many tag teams, so many factions that it always kept itself fresh. Nowadays, you don't even know what to fucking cheer for because everything is shoved down your throat and it's all repetitive. And everybody's like, well, you can't really get mad when you and John Cena and Randy Orton fought each other 14 times because that's what happened with The Rock and Stone Cold. Rock and Stone Cold only wrestled each other like 6 times. And 3 of them were at WrestleManias. Undertaker and Mankind, they had like 4 matches together. And you only talk about like 2 main ones. But like everybody's like, oh, you can't hate on WWE now because let's face it, WWE will always have its supporters, no matter how shitty the company is, no matter how shitty the booking is, no matter how boring it is. They're always going to have their followers. But I feel like that's what AEW can do right now. AEW has a golden opportunity to make like 7 or 8 guys their top guys and never have it get stale. You got Punk, you got MJF, you got Hangman, you got Kenny Omega, you got Bryan Danielson, you got you got Adam Cole, you got the Bucks, you got let's see, who else like could be really, really prominent right now? You even got the women, like the women in the Attitude Era, there was nothing there. There was Trish and Lita. And even then, like their matches were only 2 minutes long. And even then, the Attitude Era women's matches didn't even matter because they didn't really become relevant until about the Ruthless Aggression Era. When it was Trish and Lita and Molly Holly and Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson and Victoria and Tori and, granted China wrestled the guys, But AEW right now, like their top women could be Britt Baker and Chris Statlander and, fucking maybe Ruby Soho, maybe Nyla Rose, how about, who's that one that I really like right now? Fucking Sky Blue, that girl from Chicago, she's fucking great. She could be top. Jade Cargill. You got 2 women's championships right now, if you think about it. So that could keep things fresh. Then you got all of these tag teams that are in AEW. You got the Lucha Bros. You got the, Super Click. But at the same time, you've also got their version of the Undisputed Era, which could possibly trigger something. That would be really cool. We almost had the Bullet Club again. You've got Team Taz. You've got Dark Order. You've got Inner Circle. MJF's the Pinnacle. You've got eventually the Hardys. You got HFO. The Best Friends. So many tag teams. AEW can easily do what WWF did during the Attitude Era and never make it boring and never make it repetitive. And they can make this go on for years. And I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, they will be a successful company. They will give WWE a run for their money every fucking time as long as they keep Russo, Hogan, and Bischoff out of their company. The second that they bring those guys in, their company's dead. Because, let's face it, that happened with TNA. And I talked about this on that other podcast that I deleted. I had a thought. We're going to switch over to WWE for a second. Now that Brock Lesnar is the WWE champion, this is the Brock Lesnar that everybody wanted for the last 10 years. This is the Brock Lesnar that we were hoping we would get for the longest time. And WWE, for some reason, would never pull the trigger on it, all right? If Roman Reigns was a heel and Brock Lesnar was this Brock Lesnar as a babyface during WrestleMania 31, Seth Rollins would never have cashed in Money in the Bank. And I honestly think that they would have been able to put Roman Reigns over as a babyface if they turned him heel after the Royal Rumble where he won and then got booed out of the building because they were in Philly and everybody knew that he was going to win after Daniel Bryan got kicked out of the Rumble? Because let's face it, Daniel Bryan is a fucking stale-ass character and turned everybody against him heel. And it didn't matter who you were getting booed if you were facing Daniel Bryan because everybody had a hard-on for him, even though he's nothing fucking special. But if they turned Roman Reigns heel, like if The Rock came out and Rock realized, you know what, shit, I can't put him over, and Roman just beat the fuck out of him right there, and they turned him heel, and then they started the Bloodline era then, that would have been an entirely different storyline and an entirely different fucking situation. And he wouldn't have gotten, I mean, granted, you know, a heel Roman Reigns would have gotten booed out of WrestleMania, but the entire main event wouldn't have gotten booed out of WrestleMania. People would have actually been excited for Brock versus Roman like people are now, because this is how you have to fucking book it. Brock is unbelievable as a babyface, and I have no idea. This is the Brock Lesnar that needed to be a babyface against the Authority when Seth Rollins was champion, when Brock came out and tore apart a Cadillac and threw the door at the crowd. This is the Brock Lesnar that we needed during that time, because it would have made it a hell of a lot more interesting. WWE got so bad during that point in time that it was right after Survivor Series, where they all had to come out to the ring, all the McMahons, Vince, Shane, Stephanie, and Triple H, and they broke character to tell the fans, hey, we're going to give you what you want because we see that you don't want to watch our show anymore. Because let's think about it. Your storylines were ass. It was the same thing every fucking week. Vince and Steph would come out, or no, not Vince and Steph, Triple H and Steph would come out. The McMahon-Helmsley era, Reborn, the Authority era, you know, they had fucking J&J Security, Big Show and Kane, fucking Seth Rollins, who I absolutely fucking despised. I never liked him, and I never fucking will. And I have a bad grudge against him because he's the reason why The Fiend failed. You got them coming out every fucking week, cutting a 30-minute promo at the beginning of the show, and then you have 4-minute matches that sucked because they were the same thing every week. And then you just had like the same result every week. The babyface loses. You think he's going to get the edge. You think there's going to be a team that gets the edge, and they don't. They ruined Sting. Sting should have won at WrestleMania 31, and that right there was a given. But because Vince was still bitter about him not, signing with WWE after he bought WCW, and he was the face of TNA, he's going to lose. He actually never won a singles match in WWE. He won a tag team match, but it was him and Cena versus Kane and Big Show. I think. But the Authority angle absolutely sucked, dude. It was so bad. Vince Russo could have written a better storyline. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, if Brock Lesnar was this Brock Lesnar, the guy coming out telling jokes, cutting his own promos, which he's very good at, which people don't realize because everybody's like, oh, Brock doesn't talk. You ever watched him in UFC? He knows how to talk. You ever watch him before he left the first time? Dude knows how to talk, and he's fucking funny. And you could easily have Brock Lesnar as a babyface that just has the ability to kill anyone. Okay? Seriously. You don't have to have Brock Lesnar as a heel. I think of it like a mob boss. You could be friends with a mob boss, but you know he can kill you. You could joke around with a mob boss, but you say one wrong thing, he's going to rip your fucking head off. Or he's going to have you whacked. Do that with Lesnar. Have people be friends with him, but the second you piss him off, dude, you're done. Suplex City, motherfucker. And I really feel like they probably wouldn't have had such a failure of a WrestleMania main event if this Brock Lesnar was around when he was facing Roman for the first time. You know, especially with him being champion, you know, he takes the title, he goes home. I get it, you know. He's a part-time, he is what you call a main attraction. He's not a headliner, he's a main attraction. A headliner is there every week. John Cena was a headliner. Brock Lesnar is a main attraction because if he's on the card, people are going to buy tickets to see him. Hate to say it, same thing with Goldberg, same thing with Undertaker, same thing with Triple H. They're all main attractions. Goldberg's just gotten stale. I get that. You know what I mean? Like a heel Lesnar worked for a while. Like a heel Brock Lesnar when Goldberg came back, that was perfect. And that was great storytelling. That was what, 12 years in the making? That was... Maybe it was longer. Was it 13 years? Maybe it was 12. I think it was 12 years. Goldberg comes back and just completely decimates Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's the heel, Goldberg's the face, but then they had to overdo Goldberg. If Goldberg came back for that one match and then called it quits after that, that would have been perfect. Lesnar was the heel, played it off perfectly. Lesnar was already a heel at the time. Nobody could beat him. And then Goldberg comes in, fucking lays waste to him, and he should have just went away after that. But, you know, then you had Mania, where the match was like, okay, but you knew that Lesnar was going to win. But, you know, if they also turned Roman Reigns heel, if Roman Reigns was a heel at WrestleMania 31 and Lesnar was a face at WrestleMania 31, again, like I said, Rollins would not have cashed in Money in the Bank because they wouldn't have had to have that emergency ending. Because that's what it was an emergency ending. I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. So that's what I think. I think Lesnar needs to stay babyface. He's entertaining as fuck. But it also made me wonder, you know, because I was thinking about it yesterday when I was talking on the podcast after I was done wallowing in my own self-pity and fucking, bitching about my life and how I shouldn't be bitching about it. Raw was so bad at one point that people literally found it a chore to have to watch it. Could you imagine if that's when AEW came in? Or could you imagine if that's when Cody had left the company and then, you know, they did the all-out or the all-in pay-per-view? Can you imagine if that is when Hogan decided to go to TNA? I really feel like if anybody tried competing with WWE during that time period where their ratings were like in the fucking halves, and I'm talking about the authority angle. I'm talking about, you know, like where it was so boring and repetitive when they had to break character and say, all right, we're going to stop this. We're going to give you what you want. If somebody tried going against them, I think it would have been fucking really difficult for WWE to stay on top. And I also think Triple H's NXT would not have been as successful because there would have been other promotions. Now, I mean, I know that there were promotions that were out already. New Japan was popular. Ring of Honor was popular. Impact was you know? There were a lot of promotions that were just not getting the nationwide attention like they are now. You know, Chikara, fucking Lucha Underground. You had AAA. You had, All Japan. Fucking MLW. Fucking Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. CZW, which is suddenly getting huge now. CZW, fucking GCW. All of these guys, like... And then you had, like, the Bullet Club was in its prime at that point. And, I mean, yeah, they tried to do something as far as an invasion, but it didn't really work, and it got Jimmy Jacobs fired. But, like, can you imagine if, like, AEW was announced during the time when WWE was tanking that bad? They would have fucking taken over really easily. People would have quit left and right. I don't think Triple H's NXT would have happened that easily because I think guys like, you know, Samoa Joe and Eric Young and Adam Cole, baby, and, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, Killer Cross, fucking all of these guys that are now no longer there, I don't think would have ever been there in the first place. Hell, I don't think AJ Styles would have been there. Because AJ Styles came in during what? The 13 Rumble? No. Because that was the Rumble that Roman had to defend the WWE title and Triple H won, which led to WrestleMania 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38 is going to be this year. It's 22, 21, 29, 16, 2016. AJ Styles debuted 2016. Wait. 32, 33, 34, 30. Yeah, 2016. Because Roman won in 2015. That's when he got booed out of the building, when I think he should have turned heel. Because then they could have had Rock versus Roman. Because he could have beat the fuck out of The Rock right there. He could have beat the living shit out of The Rock right there. Turned heel, and they wouldn't have had to worry about shoving Roman down our throats. Because what better way to turn him heel than on his own cousin? Then they could have built up Rock versus Roman. Man, you got me on a fucking tangent right now, man. Oh my God. If another company became prominent during that time, WWE would have had a very hard time staying on top. And NXT wouldn't have been what it was. I am fucking putting money on that right now. It would have been so different. You know who else should have stayed out too? Ronda Rousey. Everybody's so gung-ho about, Ronda Rousey was one of the best WrestleMania debuts of all time. I agree. And I feel like Ronda Rousey should have had a fucking great WWE career. I feel like her debuting after the first Women's Rumble match was an absolute slap in the face to everybody who was in that match. Because nobody talked about Asuka winning the Rumble. They all talked about Ronda Rousey debuting, which I didn't think was fair. I watched that night, like, dude, fucking, I am all for women's wrestling. Some of the women that they've got in the business right now are some of the best fucking wrestlers in the world. Britt Baker is on a whole nother fucking level, and CM Punk is right when he says that she's a pillar of AEW. Sasha Banks can wrestle. Bayley could wrestle. I know I'm probably going to get hate for saying that. People are going to be like, oh, you're just a mark. No, dude, they can fucking wrestle. Maria Kanellis could fucking wrestle. Look at the fucking street fight that they had on AEW a couple weeks ago with Penelope Ford and, oh my God, what the fuck is her name? Allie, the bunny. Penelope Ford and the bunny versus Anna Jay and Ty Conti. That match was out of this world. It was violent, it was brutal, it was technical, it was hard to watch at some points. And the fact that the women, like, nowadays are willing to put their bodies on their line like that, years ago, you would have thought that was fucking crazy. The most you were ever getting was Lita going off the top rope and doing a moonsault. You never saw women getting hit with chairs and getting thrown through tables and shit. Never. Hell, I fucking marked out when I first saw that cage match between Lita, I think it was Lita and Trish. Raw Roulette. That cage, was it Lita and Trish, or was it, I know it was Lita, but was it Lita and Trish, or was it Lita and somebody else? Maybe it was Victoria. It was somebody. But I was like, holy fuck. A cage match? No. And now they're having women's Money in the Bank matches, women's Hell in a Cell, women elimination chambers, women's cage matches, women's street fights, women's fucking, Extreme Rule, everything, dude. It's like the girls are, and they're showing the guys up. So that's why, like, I watched Evolution. I thought that was a great pay-per-view when WWE did that with just the girls. I thought that was fantastic. And then I watched the Women's Royal Rumble, and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be something crazy. and Asuka wins, and I'm like, holy shit, she beat Charlotte. No. She did not beat Charlotte. Charlotte and Becky were the champions at the time. Asuka had to go, because Asuka faced Charlotte at WrestleMania, who fucking won, which is bullshit. And then Becky went on to face Sasha, I think, at that Mania. Because that was the year after the triple threat match, where it was Sasha versus Charlotte versus Becky. Which I thought was fucking cool too. You know, but Ronda Rousey coming in after that Royal Rumble was a slap in the fucking face. You know? And of course, it just happened to be during the time when people were just fed up with WWE. So, like, yeah, Ronda Rousey's like a good, you know, name to bring in and everything, but eventually she got stale. Eventually she turned heel. Was her debut match great? Absolutely. She beat the shit out of Triple H. Like, legitimately, she was punching him. Like, I don't think people realize that Triple H told her to not hold back on the punches for the hard camera. And she didn't. And Stephanie, like, you know, as much as I don't like Stephanie, she could still fucking put herself over in the ring. She still sells in the ring. I was glad to see her versus Charlotte. Her versus, even that would have been a great match. Her versus Rousey instead of her versus the fucking Bellas, which I think the Bellas have been the biggest waste of space since they debuted. You know? But, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe if there was an alternative company, maybe Ronda Rousey wouldn't have even gone to WWE when she did. You never know. But there was definitely a time where you could have overthrown WWE, and that was the point. That's when it happened. But now, let's talk about modern WWE. We're finally seeing a match that everybody wanted to see for years. I'm talking, I think, 10 plus years. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, and I honestly feel like there could be something with this. Okay, hear me out. This is how I would book it. Okay? Roman Reigns right now is the Universal Champion. Roman Reigns is facing Seth Rollins at Royal Rumble for the WWE title. Brock Lesnar is facing Bobby Lashley for the title. I think, and this is how I would book it, okay? You open up the match, you open up the pay-per-view with Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. No. Let me stop. Actually, no. We'll think about it this way, okay? Because this is how they could easily repeat history and do it right. Hear me out. Open up with Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. Roman loses the Universal title to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins becomes the new Universal Champion. Now, mind you, I know it's heel versus heel. Okay? Roman, even after all of the help from the bloodline and all that shit, he somehow curb stomp loses the fucking Universal title. Okay? That's the first match. Royal Rumble, which we're going to assume is going to probably be about halfway through. Maybe a little bit later. I think it's gonna open. The first Rumble is going to be the women's match. Because, I mean, let's face it, we know who's winning the women's Royal Rumble match. It's either going to be Sasha, or it's going to be fucking either a returning Bayley, or honestly, I would say, would I say Rhea Ripley? No, I would not say Rhea Ripley. Could be a returning Bayley. Because right now, Becky and Charlotte are going into WrestleMania as their respective champions. That's just going to be a given. All right. So it's going to be whoever wins the Women's Royal Rumble match. Don't really care. All right. But the men's match would be a little bit further into the show. All right. Roman wins the Royal Rumble. Again. This time as a heel. And I think the last person in the ring should be Kevin Owens with Roman. Why? Storyline for the first match. All right? Because this whole bromance between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, as much as I love Kevin Owens, I've always been a fan of Kevin Steen. It's a little weird. I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about it. All right? Roman wins the Royal Rumble. Main event is Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. That's the match everybody wanted to see for years. It ends up being a fucking banger. They beat the shit out of each other. Suplex, spear, whatever the fuck you want to do. Brock wins the title. He wins the match, keeps the title. Roman comes out at the very end and spears the fuck out of Brock Lesnar. Catches him off guard, beats the shit out of him. Here comes the Bloodline. They come out, beat the shit out of him. Here comes Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman doesn't interfere. Paul Heyman just stands on the side and watches. Bloodline gets out. Go over to Paul. Whose side are you on? What the hell are you doing? Whose side are you on? Because I think that's what it's going to get down to. Whose side are you on? All right? From what I understand, we're not having anything in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. There's no Elimination Chamber. There's nothing. No Fatal 4-Way, no Money in the Bank, nothing. You've got all this time to build up Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, but now the roles are reversed. Roman Reigns is the heel. Brock Lesnar is the baby face. We don't know what's going on with Paul Heyman. Eventually, Brock is going to confront Heyman. He's going to say, Paul, I've known you for years, but I've also known that you've been a snake. I know you've been a liar, and you've turned your back on me before. Whose side are you on? And then have some sort of build-up where you think Paul's going to be on Roman's side, but you also think that he's going to keep his willing faith that he's always had, his advocate, Brock Lesnar. You want it's Brock and Paul because he's going to be like, I get it. Brock was with Paul Heyman. WrestleMania 29, Paul was also with Punk. They were both heels. That's kind of like what's going on right now. But it's like babyface Brock is so much better. But it's like back then they weren't deciding, all right, who's Paul with? No, Paul's kind of like the Bobby the Brain Heenan of the group right now. He's got a whole bunch of people under his belt. But eventually, like, I would book it to where it's going to be a point in time where, like, maybe 2 weeks before Mania, Paul, whose fucking side are you on? Are you on his side or are you on his side? Paul doesn't want to answer. Finally, Brock makes a stipulation. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania with Paul Heyman as the special guest referee. And that right there is going to fucking finally decide whether Paul Heyman is with the Bloodline or if he's with Brock. That's how I would build it up. You have no idea. Paul is this tweener. Paul comes out and he's an advocate to Brock one day, but he's not there when Brock needs him for something. And then he's there for Roman, or you see him in the back with Roman talking about a contract, but then he refuses to answer anything on it, and he gets worried that, Brock is around. You know what I mean? So Paul has got to be the what if in this situation. Like, what the fuck is Paul Heyman doing right now? Whose side is Paul Heyman on? And then finally have him as the guest referee at WrestleMania, and he decides who walks out of WrestleMania as the WWE champion, and that's whose side he's on. As far as the Universal title is concerned, Seth Rollins has the Universal title. I think Bobby Lashley goes after Seth Rollins at one point during the in-between part of Raw, or, like WrestleMania. Bobby Lashley eventually wins the title. Wins the Universal title from Roman. Because, man, let's face it, they're going to have Goldberg back for one more match. You might as well just build up Goldberg, have Goldberg come back, get killed by Lashley, and then, eventually maybe build into SummerSlam, maybe title versus title, Brock or whoever wins WrestleMania, like the WWE title versus Lashley. Winner take all. But then, if Lesnar ends up, now I've got myself thinking, what's after WrestleMania? What's in between WrestleMania and SummerSlam? Money in the Bank. Okay, Seth Rollins loses the title to Bobby Lashley. He wins Money in the Bank. Okay, so now you've got Seth Rollins with the Money in the Bank briefcase again. All right. You got Bobby Lashley as a champion. You got Brock Lesnar as a champion. You have... Oh, yeah, this would be it. This would be great. Listen to this. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, title unification at SummerSlam. Whoever wins that match gets cashed in on by Seth Rollins. Or maybe Roman Reigns goes on a hiatus if he loses at WrestleMania. He goes on a hiatus for a little bit. Brock and Bobby finally clash, unify the titles. Roman comes back at SummerSlam, costs Brock Lesnar the championship. Bobby wins the Universal Championship, the WWE Championship. They combine them. Seth Rollins comes out, cashes in, becomes the new champion. That builds up for SummerSlam, or for Survivor Series, Team Brock versus Team Roman. Again, you don't know whose side Paul Heyman's on. All right? And then, mind you, keep Brock babyface this entire time. Survivor Series, you got Team Brock versus Team Roman. Winner take all. Winner gets Paul Heyman. Maybe even loser leaves town. Maybe loser leaves WWE. Roman wins, and then Brock goes and does his own thing, like what Brock does. So, you got Roman on top. You got Paul Heyman back with Roman because you didn't know what he was doing until, mid-Survivor Series. I don't know. I don't know how it would play out. And then you bring The Rock back for the next WrestleMania because The Rock's sick and fucking tired of seeing this. Roman's shitting on his family. He thinks he's the head of the table and everything. Rock, he's like, The Rock's been sitting on the sidelines and he's been watching Roman Reigns acting like a jackass. The Rock says that, enough is enough. I've sat back long enough. I've tried giving you the benefit of the doubt, hoping you would do the right thing. You're hanging out with this jabroni Paul Heyman, and The Rock's done. And The Rock wants to take this family back once and for all. And eventually it becomes Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania the next year. And there's your payoff. That's how I would book it. So... holy shit, I've been talking for a while. All right, guys, I'm actually going to get going. My phone's got to charge. I've been talking for an hour and 12 minutes. Holy fuck. So, guys, I will talk to you later. I hope everybody has a good rest of the week. I'll see if I can get Rich on, and, let's make it happen. See you guys later. Thanks for listening.